Hi, this is Scott Galveo from Intercultural Elements, and today we're very happy to have a guest with us. That is Bart, an e-commerce consultant from WorldFirst.
Hi Scott, thanks very much. Nice to be here.
Yeah, great. So first question, what is WorldFirst? Tell us a little bit about that, and what does it do?
So we at WorldFirst, we focus on international money transfer for businesses and individuals. One of our main core business segments is online sellers as well. So we essentially help our clients open bank accounts abroad. We help them pay their invoices and the suppliers. We also help them manage their foreign currency risk.
Okay. So what would you say are the main concerns for sellers when they sell into foreign marketplaces?
The first thing is definitely, will my product sell? And will there be a competitive advantage in terms of pricing, for example, with local sellers in this market? Then the second one would be, of course, the entire fulfillment side is how do I get my products then fulfilled and how do I get them to the customers in a way? And then the third thing is also some way when we maybe come in is in the entire side of how do I repatriate my money? How do I get paid back? How do I manage the entire side of the foreign currency, for example? And
Then what are the main costs involved that an e-commerce seller has to look out for when they're selling internationally?
well, I would say there are quite a few. So one of the things, definitely what I mentioned, is the foreign currency risk. In a way, the currency exchange movements can move in your favor as a seller, but also against you.
Yeah.
So that's one factor that can be very significant. Also, another part is, of course, the entire fees associated with international transfers, fees from marketplaces, for example, for exchanging the currency. So these are all things that add up on a way that you can actually give away part of your margin, for example, as a seller.
So one of the main concerns that I've heard from our sellers at Intercultural Elements is that when they expand abroad, of course, they're selling in different currencies. And many marketplaces, actually, when they exchange the currency, let's say from euro to pound or dollar to euro or whatever, that marketplace will simply take a couple of percentage points just for exchanging that currency. Is that correct? And how do you mitigate that?
Yeah, that's a good question. That is fairly correct as you described it right now. So marketplaces do tend to take quite a substantially, would say, percentage for exchanging the currency. Simply put, basically because it is not their core business and they have to cover certain costs for maybe a certain segment of sellers. So it is a natural way to compensate in this way for them.
Okay.
So yes, I mean, there are certain requirements in terms of how you can get your money basically in the specific currency in order not to exchange it, for example.
Okay.
When you take Amazon as an example, you have to, when you're an online seller from the UK and you sell in Amazon Europe, maybe in Germany, for example, pan-European, then you would need a bank account in mainland Europe, denominated in euro, in order to be able to collect your payments in euro and not having them converted. So there are certain requirements in terms of having the localized bank account, which would not be simply offset with a euro nominated account in mainland Britain, for example.
Okay.
And also there are other requirements, like for example, that you have an individual bank account. Many currency brokers, for example, operate with certain so-called pooled accounts where many funds of many clients are flowing in and then they are paying the clients, which in a way is against the Amazon TNCs, for example. And it could get you in a way as at least suspended for a short time, maybe even for a long time, when you operate via such an account.
Okay, because in a pooled account that you just talked about, so I would assume if one seller in that pool got suspended, then it could be that your account is also endangered.
That is exactly what it is the case, and we even observed it in certain cases that this happened and to multiple sellers at once.
Okay. One of the last questions I'm going to ask is Brexit, right? I know it's on everybody's mind. What is WorldFirst's view on Brexit? How do they imagine that could affect online sellers?
I would say that one of the key elements about the entire Brexit scenario right now is uncertainty. First of all, uncertainty is something that will not end in March 2019. It's still not certain how a certain transitional period will look like, how the entire relationship with the EU will look like. If it seems clear that the UK will not stay in the single market, but it still is not certain if it will be in the customs union or how certain trade agreements will look like afterwards, and this could take time. And in terms of online sellers and SMEs in general, the problem is that in terms of, for example, scenario planning, that's something that big businesses are very good at because they can dedicate those resources to it. But for smaller sellers, for example, it's not that easy to mitigate the risk in terms of going into different scenarios and see how it might plan out in 3 years, 5 years, and so on. So I would say one side is, of course, currency. For UK exporters, for example, a weaker pound has been beneficial to some extent. But on the flip side, of course, if you source in dollars, for example, then this is offset in a way because your entire supply chain is getting more expensive.
Right.
So I would say it is important to look at your relationships that you have with your businesses, with your customers and with your suppliers as well as a seller, and maybe try to build stronger ties with them over the next years and look at different scenarios in a way, how it would look like to trade with Europe, for example, as a third country, and what it would mean for your business in a way in terms of tariffs, non-tariff barriers. So there's a lot to consider, unfortunately, and yeah, but there are also opportunities in this way. So
great, well said. Bart, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thanks, Scott.
No worries. And yeah, be sure to join us for the next video in the Tame Bay Intercultural Elements series.